Good morning. How is everybody? Wow. Ah, these stories about Jesus are so amazing. And he wants us to walk just like he walked. It is so exciting to see what Jesus did. Another one of my favorite scriptures is right after the feeding of the 5,000 with the 5 loaves and 2 loaves, with the 5 loaves and 2 fish. Go to John 6, chapter 6, verse 16. And it says, that evening Jesus' disciples went down to the shore to wait for him. But as darkness fell and Jesus still hadn't come back, they got into the boat and headed across the lake toward Capernaum. Soon a gale swept down upon them. That means strong winds. And the sea grew very rough. They had rowed 3 or 4 miles when suddenly they saw Jesus walking on the water toward the boat, and they were terrified. But he called out to them, "Don't be afraid, I am here." Then they were eager to let him in the boat, and immediately they arrived at their destination. They were scared because it was such a crazy thing. They'd never seen anybody walk on the water. But Jesus is Lord of nature as well as Lord of people. So nothing is impossible for him. Now, you know how I told you that the Gospels share some of the same stories. They're written by different people, so sometimes the people recorded different things that happened, but sometimes they record the same thing that happened. So I want you to go to Matthew chapter 14 and go to verse 22, because Matthew wrote a lot more detail about what happened. Okay, are you there? Okay, here's what it says. Immediately after this, after they fed the 5,000 women and children, 5,000 men plus women and children, immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. After sending them home, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. And that just shows that Jesus, since he was a human living on the earth, he had to spend time with God the Father, just like we need to spend time with God. Every day, every morning, every night before you go to sleep, you want to spend some quiet time with God. You can read your Bible, or you can just pray and just be quiet and listen. So this is what Jesus was doing, and he stayed there until night. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, okay, so it had been almost all night, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. And when the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" They could really see who it was or what it was. But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples worshipped him. "You really are the Son of God," they exclaimed. After they had crossed the lake, they landed at Gennesaret. When the people recognized Jesus, the news of his arrival spread quickly throughout the whole area, and soon people were bringing all their sick to be healed. They begged him to let the sick touch at least the fringe of his robe, and all who touched him were healed. Wow. So Peter, when he recognized it was Jesus, he wanted to walk on the water too. Did Peter walk on the water? Yes, he is the only person that walked on the water. All the other disciples were too afraid. They didn't have any faith at all. But Jesus was telling Peter that, you didn't need to doubt me. And when Peter doubted Jesus about walking on the water, it was when he looked at the storm. And this is what I think Jesus wants us to realize too, is we got to keep our eyes focused on Jesus, because he is able to do all things through us. And it's when we get distracted by what looks scary around us, or if we're going through a hard time or we're having problems, if we start looking at those problems, then it takes our faith away from Jesus. But if we keep looking at Jesus, then we can do the impossible. So Peter is the only one that walked on the water with Jesus. Isn't that awesome? But what's really awesome too is Jesus came to them when they were scared in the boat, and he calmed the storm. When he got in the boat, his peace just calmed the storm. Awesome. I hope you guys have an awesome day and know that you are walking with Jesus today too. MiMa loves you. Bye.